If you've ever pulled out a buddy heater and wondered why it starts acting off so quickly, odd flames, a dusty smell, even random shutoffs, there's a reason. These heaters pull a lot of room air through a small burner system, so lint, dust, pet hair, and even spider webs can build up faster than you'd expect, and that can throw off the burn. In this video, we'll break down exactly where that dirt collects, why it changes performance, and what problems it can trigger, like soot, moisture, unreliable operation, and in worst cases, unsafe combustion. Always follow your manual, keep vents clear, and use proper ventilation and a carbon monoxide alarm when running any unvented propane heater indoors. Number 1. What dirty really means on a buddy heater. A buddy-style propane heater is basically a small burner system that's trying to mix fuel with room air in a very controlled way, and then push that heat out through a ceramic tile. That ceramic tile is the big glowing face you see. The heater pulls air in through vent slots and channels it through the internal air path. Then propane comes through a tiny opening called an orifice, and the air and gas mix inside a tube shaped like a funnel called a venturi. That mix feeds the burner, so the tile glows bright orange when things are running right. The dirty part usually isn't the outside looking dusty. The real issue is contamination inside the casing, around the burner assembly, in the venturi, at the pilot area, and in that tiny orifice. It doesn't take much. A thin layer of lint, dust, or a few strands of pet hair can change the airflow. A little debris can partially block that orifice. And once the air-to-fuel mix is off, the heater stops burning clean. The manufacturer manuals are pretty blunt about what normal flames look like and what dirty flames look like. They say the pilot flame should be blue, not yellow, and the burner should be bright orange without a noticeable open flame. They also point out a specific warning sign. If you see a blue flame rolling out at the top of the ceramic tile, that's a clue there's dust, lint, or spider webs inside the casing and main burner assembly. That's not just cosmetic. That's the heater telling you the combustion is starting to misbehave. And that's when soot and odors show up, and the safety system starts acting up. The manual also stresses keeping vent areas clear at all times, because those vent slots are the heater's lungs. When those lungs are restricted, the heater has to work with less oxygen, and propane heaters don't handle that politely. Lack of proper ventilation air can lead to improper combustion, and improper combustion is where carbon monoxide risk and soot come from. In other words, dirty quickly turns into performance and safety quickly. Number 2. Why these heaters collect dirt faster than people expect. Buddy heaters get dirty fast for a simple reason. They're air hungry, and they breathe the same air you're sitting in. Anything floating around in that space can end up inside the heater. Fine dust, lint, carpet fibers, insulation fuzz, sawdust, dry soil tracked in, pet dander, and even tiny bits of paper or fabric can get pulled toward the intake and settle in the internal passages. Because the unit warms the air, it creates steady convection. Warm air rises, cooler air slides in low to replace it, and that constant movement keeps particles circulating right where the heater pulls air from. If the heater is set on the floor, it's pulling air from the dirtiest zone in the room, where heavier dust and hair settle. Storage also plays a big role in dirty fast. A lot of people store these heaters in a garage, shed, basement, closet, or vehicle, then bring them out when the weather turns or when the power goes out. During storage, dust builds up on the outside and gets shaken loose when you move it. More importantly, insects can get into warm, protected cavities. The manual specifically calls out insects, nests, and spider webs as a thing you have to check for in the burner orifice and the venturi tube. That's not random. Spiders like the smell of fuel additives, and the venturi shape is a perfect little tunnel for webs. Those webs don't just sit there. They partially block the air mix and can create flame rollout, soot, and overheating. The heater can also self-dirty in a way people miss. If you run it in a space with airborne oils or aerosols, those can coat surfaces inside the heater, and dust sticks to oily film like glue. Things that raise airborne oils include cooking grease in the air, some sprays, some solvents, and smoke. Even if you don't see a mess, that film can build up and make the next layer of dust much harder to remove. In prepping terms, this matters because the heater you're counting on for emergency heat might spend 11 months sitting in storage collecting lint and spider webs. Then it's suddenly expected to run safely for hours during a blackout. That's exactly the situation where "it gets dirty fast" turns into "it fails when it matters." Number 3. The fuel side reason. Hoses, oil residue, and tiny clogs. A lot of people assume dirt only comes from room air, but the fuel side can cause dirty symptoms too, especially when you connect the heater to a larger 20-pound cylinder with a hose. On paper, propane is a clean fuel, but in real life the system includes regulators, hoses, seals, and fittings. Over time, small amounts of oily residue can end up in the line, and that residue can trap grit or form sticky deposits. The manufacturer manuals for buddy-style heaters talk about this in very direct language when using a remote cylinder. They strongly recommend using a disposable fuel filter designed to trap oil substances because those substances can make the heater inoperable.
They also note that some specific Buddy series hose setups don't require a filter, while other hose setups do, and they call out that the fuel filter needs to be replaced periodically, commonly listed as annually in the manuals for those filter setups. This matters because the fuel path includes extremely small openings. The orifice is tiny by design. The pilot system has tiny passages. A small amount of residue can reduce flow just enough that the heater starts acting weird. It lights but won't stay lit. It won't run on high. It shuts off after warming up, or it gives you a lazy yellow flame instead of a stable burn. From the outside, this looks like the heater is getting dirty, and functionally, that's exactly what's happening. Contamination is affecting combustion. If you're doing emergency preparedness on a beginner level, the practical takeaway is simple. Don't treat hoses and filters as optional accessories you improvise. Use the correct manufacturer-recommended hose and regulator setup for your exact model. And if the manual calls for a fuel filter when running off a bulk tank, actually use it and replace it on schedule. Also, treat cylinder connections as clean connections. Keep dirt out of the threads and fittings. Do your leak checks the normal way with soapy water. And if a heater starts acting like it's starved for fuel, don't keep forcing it to run. That's how a small clog turns into a bigger problem, because poor combustion creates soot that then adds an air side problem on top of the fuel side problem. Number 4. What dirt causes inside the heater? Soot, shutdowns, and moisture problems. Once dirt changes the air-to-fuel mix, the heater starts producing the stuff you don't want. With propane, the best-case burn makes mainly carbon dioxide and water vapor plus heat. But when oxygen is limited or the mix is off, you can get incomplete combustion. That's where carbon monoxide and soot come into the picture. Soot is basically unburned carbon that shows up as black dust or oily black film. It can stain the heater face, nearby walls, gear, and even fabrics in the room. It also makes the heater look dirty fast, because soot sticks to everything and spreads easily. On top of that, buddy heaters rely on safety systems that assume the burner is behaving normally.
Many models use an oxygen depletion sensor concept tied to the pilot system. When oxygen drops or combustion becomes unstable, the safety system can shut the heater down. People often call these nuisance shutoffs, but they're usually the heater reacting to airflow or combustion issues. Dirt increases those shutdowns because the heater is more likely to run with a weak pilot flame, a partially blocked venturi, or a restricted air path. Another underrated effect is humidity. Because unvented propane heat produces water vapor, indoor use can noticeably raise indoor moisture. That moisture can condense on cold surfaces, dampen gear, and make the environment feel clammy even while it's warm. Some manuals even note that condensation can build up on small tanks and drip under the heater during operation. Moisture also makes dust stick faster. A slightly damp film inside the casing grabs lint and holds it. So the heater doesn't just get dirty once. It gets dirty, then it starts collecting dirt faster. For prepping and home preparedness, this is a big deal because moisture is a silent problem during outages. High humidity can lead to condensation on windows, damp bedding, wet clothing, and it can add stress to people with breathing sensitivities. The combo of soot risk plus moisture plus CO risk is why dirty fast isn't a minor annoyance. It changes indoor air quality, and it changes how reliably the heater runs. If a heater is sooting, that's not a deal-with-it-later moment. It's a stop-and-fix moment, because the same conditions that create soot are the conditions that can raise carbon monoxide.
Number 5. The warning signs most people miss until the heater starts failing.
The obvious sign is black soot on the heater face or nearby surfaces, but you usually get earlier clues. Flame shape and color is one of the clearest. Manuals describe what you should see: a blue pilot flame, not yellow, and a bright orange burner tile without a noticeable open flame. They also point out that a blue flame rolling out at the top of the tile suggests dust, lint, or spider webs inside. If you're seeing that, the heater is telling you the airflow and mixing are wrong. Another clue is behavior. The heater lights but won't stay lit. It runs for a bit and shuts off. It struggles to switch from pilot to a heat setting, or it keeps clicking and relighting attempts don't hold. In a lot of cases, that's either airflow restriction, a dirty pilot area, a dirty venturi, or fuel contamination. Smell is another clue, but people read it wrong. A strong, burning dust smell at first start after storage can be normal for a short time, but a persistent, sharp odor, eye irritation, or headaches are not normal, and manuals treat that seriously as potential improper combustion and carbon monoxide concern. From a beginner prepping standpoint, one of the smartest moves is to build a habit of quick checks every time you set it up. Make sure the vent slots are not blocked. Confirm the heater is on a stable, non-flammable surface. Keep it away from combustibles. And pay attention to flame appearance once it's running. Also, remember the environment changes how these heaters behave. Manuals mention that at higher altitudes, like over 7,000 feet, the heater may not burn as bright and may shut off. And the recommended response is to provide fresh air, wait a few minutes, and relight, with the note that local atmospheric conditions can still cause trouble. That matters for anyone planning trips, bug-out locations, or even just cabins in higher elevations.
Finally, there's one rule that gets repeated because people keep ignoring it. Never run these heaters while sleeping. If you're thinking preparedness, that's not a suggestion, it's a planning constraint. You plan heat in layers and time blocks. You plan ventilation, you plan alarms, and you plan that the heater is attended and monitored.
If you want a system you can safely rely on overnight, that's where properly installed, vented heat sources and building-safe options come into the conversation, not a portable, unvented unit sitting a few feet away. Number 6. How to slow the dirt down and keep performance steady. The goal isn't to baby the heater. The goal is to make it predictable when you need it. Start with placement and airflow. Keep the vent areas clear at all times, and don't tuck the heater into a corner where it's starved for air or where curtains, clothing, or gear can block the vents. Run it in a space where you can provide fresh air, because ventilation protects you, and it also helps combustion stay clean. If you're using it during emergency preparedness situations, treat fresh air like a standard part of the setup, right alongside batteries and water. Next is storage. Store the heater clean, cool, and protected. Keep it in a sealed tote or bag once it's fully cooled so dust and insects don't get easy access. Don't store it with a cylinder attached indoors, and don't store it where it can soak up garage dust for months. Then there's maintenance. The manufacturer maintenance section focuses on keeping the casing, burner area, pilot, venturi, and orifice clear of dust, lint, and spider webs, and they describe using a vacuum or air pressure to clean, including a clear warning not to use needles or wires to clean the pilot because you can damage the calibrated orifice that controls gas flow. They also describe using air pressure with a maximum limit listed in the manual for blowing dust out of the ceramic tile area and venturi tube.
The safest beginner approach is let the heater cool completely. Disconnect the fuel source, and if you're not comfortable opening it up, don't guess. Have it serviced or follow the manual exactly for your model. If you do use compressed air, keep it controlled and gentle because you're cleaning dust out, not trying to blast parts loose. On the fuel side, if you connect to a remote cylinder, use the manufacturer recommended hose setup and use the fuel filter when the manual calls for it, replacing it on schedule. That one habit prevents a huge number of "my buddy heater suddenly won't run right" problems. For prepping for beginners, this is one of those boring steps that pays off. A spare filter and the correct hose setup in your prepper stockpile is more useful than a lot of flashy gear because it keeps your heat option functional. Add basic monitoring too. A carbon monoxide alarm and a smoke alarm with fresh batteries, plus a fire extinguisher nearby, are part of responsible operation, and clean, properly adjusted heaters reduce the chance of harmful pollutant release. When a buddy heater stays clean internally, it burns more steadily, smells less, soots less, and is far less likely to surprise you with shutdowns right when you're depending on it for home preparedness during an outage.